had Ironman on the weekend, and
Yeah.
the it didn't quite go to plan, but everything's a learning experience. So do you want to talk a bit about that Ironman swim, and then and what happened there?
Yeah, just I had gone in thinking that, all right, I can swim. I had done a 3,200 meter time trial in the pool where I was right around, which would have put me at like 66 minutes. So I was like, okay, I was like, if I put on a skim suit, and I was like, the lake, everybody talks about how like, flat the lake is there because it's a man-made lake. So there's no current, there's no nothing. It's just like, it's just water that they filled in there. So I was expecting to kind of go in that 65 to 66 range. And so with swim, I got smacked in the face and my goggles and cap come flying off. And so immediately the heart rate goes up because I'm like, all right, I'm like, I should be, in my mind, I'm like, I have a shot at a Kona spot and there's only 2 there. So I'm like, all right, I'm like, now I know, now I'm like really nervous and like my heart rate shoots up because now I'm panicking because I'm like, I got to look for where my goggles are. I'm pausing. People are now like, swimming into me because I'm just standing still. So if I get my goggles on, and so I've had troubles keeping swim caps on. So I always put my goggles underneath. So if the swim cap slips off, then it can just like go off and I don't have to worry about like, cause I've been in a race where I had my goggles over top of it. And now I just have like this thing being held on by my goggles and like creating drag and stuff. So when my goggles came off, it flipped my cap off too. And I didn't know if I really needed it or not with this being my first Ironman. So yeah, it was windy that day. So I definitely like, didn't expect as much chop that was on there, but there was a lot of chop and I was kind of just taking on water and it was not wetsuit legal. So I was in a skim suit, which for us swimming deficit people, that puts me in a little disadvantage to a lot of other people. But yeah, so it was a learning experience. So, but yeah, it was a lot more violent than I expected, than I had experienced at other races, and definitely a lot harder than I had imagined it to be. But I was
Yeah.
like right around. I was just under 75 minutes for that, so about 10 minutes off when I thought I was going to swim. I was like, I remember coming. I was like, oh man, I was like, I'm so embarrassed to tell Brian what I did in the swim. I was like, I'm like, we got the podcast. I was like, I'm going to embarrass him instead of actually.
So it's all good. I think everyone goes through it. Everyone has a bad race here and there, and especially being your first Ironman. When I went into my first Ironman, I thought there's no way I'm going to nail every single section of this, and I'm just going to have to wait until afterwards to see what are those learnings that I can take from it, and something's bound to go wrong, and inevitably it did, because I had no experience to really draw on apart from friends and a few coaches that I know. But yeah, that's all part of it. And especially those choppy waters and choppy conditions without a wetsuit on, being beat up as you're trying to put your goggles on, like it's everything that you can then take into the next race. If you experience something similar, you've got that experience to draw, and you can no doubt